Let's start just, though, with this story that just came up today of Mr. Cohen pleading guilty and saying he lied to Congress about whether President Trump was actually negotiating with the Russians, even after he knew he was going to get the nomination. Does that have much effect in Washington as a practical matter?
Yeah, I mean, I think from a market's perspective, I don't think it has much of an effect. I think you saw markets reacting earlier this year when the Cohen office was raided. I think that the markets will start paying attention to this if and when it gets closer to the president. So if it actually involves his family and potentially implicates them. I think from a Washington perspective, and again, kind of tying this back to markets, what it may have an impact on is whether Democrats can actually work with the president, or do they get too bogged down in investigations related to this? Because I think there is, and I don't think this is appreciated in the market necessarily, but there is some potential that we get an infrastructure bill, for instance. We know that Democrats in the House want to govern. They want to show that they can govern. And some of them want to actually work with the president. And so I think they're trying to find areas of commonality. I think the big question is, are things like this, do they preclude that commonality?
Well, and at the very least, it gives Democrats a little bit of a plausible reason to actually do the investigations. Before, the president just said it's nonsense, it's nonsense, it's nonsense. It's a little harder to say that now. And can the Democrats resist that temptation?
Yeah.
The Mark Waters of this world,
right.
to really say, oh, I've got to go after this.
Yeah, right. I think so being in the minority in the Senate is a different case. I think that, again, being the majority in the House, your Democrats are going to really try to be very deliberate about the issues that they investigate. Because, and I was just on the Hill earlier this week, and the sort of the impression that I get is that they do want to show that they can legislate. They want to show that they can do things that are pro-economic growth. They want to win back the White House in 2020, and I think that is, providing some oversight to the president is part of that, but also showing that they can actually get something done. So they are walking a fine line here, but Nancy Pelosi, who's likely going to be the speaker, I think she will try to thread that needle.
So if today is the day of Michael Cohen, tomorrow and Saturday are going to be the days of the G20.
Yes.
With trade very much on the agenda, even put aside the G20, between President Trump and President Xi. Just before he left, President Trump gave some encouraging noises, at least, about China. This is what he had to say.
I think we're very close to doing something with China, but I don't know that I want to do it, because what we have right now is billions and billions of dollars coming into the United States in the form of tariffs or taxes. So I really don't know, but I will tell you that I think China wants to make a deal. I'm open to making a deal, but frankly, I like the deal we have right now.
So there you heard it. His basic argument is he likes it because he's getting a lot of money into the coffers of the United States government through tariffs. Does he really think that's as good as having trade and commerce?
Well, and of course, who are paying those tariffs, right? It's not the Chinese are not paying those tariffs. It's American consumers or American producers. I think that's clear as mud, honestly, and it's pretty consistent with sort of the whipsaw that we've had. I mean, I think there have been some positive statements out of the administration, and then you actually see what actions they're taking. So, for instance, U.S. Trade Representative Bob Lighthizer just recently reported an updated report on this 301 investigation that we're launching into China, and an update on that report, and it included some pretty severe, pretty draconian language that the U.S. administration is not satisfied with China so far, not satisfied with what they've proposed. And so I think that a long way of saying that the bar is high for a deal with China. And if Lighthizer has anything to do with it, it's even higher.
Well, and to that point, just yesterday, Robert Lighthizer said that at the president's instance, he's going to have a new investigation on auto tariffs from China, saying maybe we should retaliate against their retaliation.
Yes, right. And yes, I think conflating two things here, but we know that the administration has an issue with especially German imported cars, and that's global, exactly. But I think it does show you, I mean, again, look at what this administration has done as it relates to China. Look at what Vice President Pence said in the APEC summit. Look at what his speech at the Hudson Institute in earlier October. I mean, they're saying a lot that is very severe. And, President Trump, again, I think is trying to walk the line, too. He wants markets to be ending on a positive note as we enter into year end. But I also think that if you look at the issues, the structural issues that we have with China, they go way beyond trade. And so, again, I think the bar is going to be high to get a big breakthrough at the G20 summit.
So in this new Congress, are we going to get USMCA ratified, as it's called, trips off the tongue?
I've been just calling it NAFTA 2.0
for ease.
So in this Congress, up until the lame duck session, as you pointed out, is going to occur for the next 2 or 3 weeks, I think it's very, very doubtful that we get a vote on NAFTA 2.0. And then, as you pointed out also earlier, we have a Democratic House and a Republican Senate. And so the dynamics on NAFTA 2.0 really change. And I think that's underappreciated in the market. I think the Democrats are going to try to leave their imprint in terms of labor and environmental provisions. And as a result, I think that withdrawal risk, the president at least threatening withdrawal, actually increases as we go into the new year.
So finally, we also have that little pesky issue about actually funding the government.
Right.
It's coming up again, or at least part of the government. We talked to Douglas Holtz-Eakin, former director of Congressional Budget Office, a couple of days ago, and he said that there actually thinks a good chance of shutting down at least part of the government. This is what he said.
What's at stake in terms of the operation of the government is relatively little. What's at stake for the president is getting the wall funded, a political victory prior to the Democrats taking control of the House of Representatives. That makes me think there's a really serious chance this could happen because it's his last chance with Republicans controlling both houses.
Is he right?
Yeah, I would agree with him. I think that there is a good chance that we see a shutdown over the border wall funding. Now, of course, Republicans in Congress don't really want this. They don't want to have the government shut down over Christmas. However, an important point here is that Congress has already passed around 80% of appropriations bills, so they've funded about 80% of the government. So when we're talking about a government shutdown, it is a very kind of partial government shutdown. And from an economic perspective, from a markets perspective, I doubt they even react.
What parts get shut down? Do you know? I mean, is there anything that would hurt politically, particularly at the base for President Trump?
Yeah, I think that the Democrats will try to highlight all of the things that will, just sort of basic, some of the government services that won't be able to be accessed. But I think when push comes to shove here, both parties will use this to the political advantage. But we all know that at some point the government will be funded and will resume sort of, operations.
So finally, last point, President Putin. President Trump, just before he left, said he thought he might meet with President Putin, got on the plane, tweeted, no, he's not going to meet with President Putin because of Ukraine, obviously.
Right.
Big problem there.
Yep.
Ukraine is saying, NATO, we need some help or something. What are the geopolitical risks there of actually are into something close to a shooting war?
Yeah, I mean, this is, and I think as we enter into 2019, in addition to, Russia, Saudi, Turkey, and then trade tensions, political risk is going to be on the forefront. In terms of risks, in terms of not meeting with Putin, I do wonder if sort of the Michael Cohen news development didn't inform some of that, right? I mean, he is going to be responding, again, trying to thread the needle politically here. And now we have Republicans and Democrats in Congress who really want us to have a harder line with Russia. So he has no friends in Congress in terms of having a friendlier approach towards Russia.
That's a great point. And he doesn't want that photo op right now,
exactly.
Slapping him on the back. That's a good point. Okay, many thanks to Pimco Head of Public Policy and Managing Director Libby Cantrill.